Gaming has changed a lot over the years, going from producing absolute classics to whatever this is. There is no doubt that a lot of people grew up on mobile games, and since the App Store's launch in 2008, millions of people have channeled their creativity in order to produce their own games. And between all of these games that were ever released, there's bound to be some that fall through the cracks and get lost to time. Today, we're talking about some of those games and how they became lost and eventually, years later, were actually found. Oh boy, I haven't talked about this one in a long time. Charlie the Steak was pretty much the reason I got into Lost Media in the first place. So many people were interested in the search and a great community was built around it. For those who don't know, Charlie the Steak is an interactive, quote-unquote, stress reliever game. It's kind of similar to the talking games we've covered in the past, such as Talking Tom and Talking Ben, but with a much more gory twist. Your goal in this game is pretty much to torture this steak as much as humanly possible, and doing so gives you meatballs which you can use to unlock further levels. When this game was released, it wasn't really met with a lot of popularity. It stayed pretty obscure until it pretty much dwindled off the face of the planet. But around this time, a meme started surfacing in which a photo of Charlie was being coupled with the song Vacation by Dirty Heads. I personally never saw this meme until I knew who Charlie the Steak was, but quite a lot of other people saw this meme, and they started questioning where this steak character was from. And that's when they came across some photos and screenshots of Charlie the Steak on the internet. So naturally, people went to the App Store to try to install the game, and found nothing. This is pretty much what sparked the search for Charlie the Steak. Multiple people, including myself, were making videos about it, trying to bring the game to the attention of as many people as possible. And it worked. We ended up getting the attention of pretty much the best person in this situation, which was the original creator of the game. Now here's the issue. A big part of why so many mobile games are lost today is because of a single iOS update. iOS 11 removed support for 32-bit applications in favor of 64-bit apps. And any developer whose apps were 32-bit needed to update their app or it would be removed from the App Store. Apple gave developers a couple of years to do this, but by 2021, every 32-bit app was completely removed from the App Store. What's interesting is the fact that the number of apps on the App Store actually peaked in 2017 at 2.2 million apps. But by the time 2021 rolled around, there were only 1.8 million apps on the App Store. This means that over the course of those few years, Apple removed more than 400,000 apps from the App Store. So you can imagine how many of these apps are just completely lost to this day. There's also the issue of when a developer is no longer making money from their apps. You see, if you want to develop and upload your own app to the App Store, you need an Apple developer account, which costs $99 per year. To some that may seem like a lot, and to some that may not seem like very much, but when a developer isn't getting that many downloads on their app, there's really no reason for them to keep paying for it, and once you stop paying for it, any apps you've uploaded to the App Store will be taken down. Until you start paying again, of course. A combination of these two situations is what caused Charlie the Steak to become lost in the first place. Not only was it a 32-bit app, but the developer just stopped paying for the Apple developer account. But once word got around that the app was gaining popularity, the developer reinstated their Apple account and updated Charlie the Steak to work on 64-bit devices, allowing people to install the game again and rendering it fully found. The next two games are pretty related to each other. We're talking about Talking Patrick and Talking SpongeBob. What's so unique about these games is the fact that we really weren't even fully sure that they existed. The only proof we had of their existence were a couple of screenshots on the internet and a single YouTube video from 12 years ago.
We are doing an iPhone app review for Talking Patrick. So, Patrick, you can shake him violently, make him laugh, make him say random things.
Patrick Star, you are one smart shopper.
And, you could also record and play the things that you made him.
Will there be nachos there?
That's my recording. And plus you can record by using the record button or hit back to go back to the shaking thingies.
This video was uploaded by CK the Frog on YouTube in 2012, and the video today has over 2 million views. Once it became apparent that this game was lost, people started flooding to the comment section of this video and asking the creator if they still had access to the Apple account that this game was on. And this is the response we got. Those looking for the app, don't bother asking me for it. I don't have it or the Apple account anymore. I moved on to Android and got rid of all my Apple stuff. Good day. So that was pretty much a dead end, and all hope was lost until a person by the name of WaffleGuy3610, nice name by the way, came along claiming that they actually had the Talking Patrick app on their old iPhone. Obviously this was great news, but there were a couple of issues. You see, when you go to extract and upload an IPA file for others to use, you need to either jailbreak your device or use a method to decrypt the IPA file. Not everyone knows how to do this, and the first time that the IPA file was quote-unquote found, it was actually still encrypted, and so no one could really use it. It was pretty much just a random file and anything could have been on it. But some very helpful people were able to get in contact with Waffle Guy and help him decrypt the app so that everyone was able to download it and play it for themselves. In a very similar fashion, Talking SpongeBob was also found in the same way that Talking Patrick's found, by the same person as well. But for some reason, Talking Patrick was a lot more popular and sought after, so Talking SpongeBob was just kind of an extra. Our final app for this video is Talking Annoying Orange. This game was developed by a company called Gigabyte Solutions. And as far as we know, the real Annoying Orange company had nothing to do with this game's development. The main reason we know of this game's existence was because of a gameplay review from the channel Crazy Mike Apps, in which he pretty much played through the entire game, but other than that, information about this game was very scarce. Now, while we were never able to find the app ourselves, 2 prototype versions of the app were actually discovered. The gameplay will be playing in the background, but these apps were different from the version that was in Crazy Mike's video, but they were clearly from the same developer. So I made a video on TikTok about the prototypes, and after that, nothing else was found about the game for months. Until very recently, when one of my viewers looked the game up on the App Store and suddenly it was back under the name Talking Orange. And lo and behold, the developer was Gigabyte Solutions. Now, this was obviously not something that we just missed previously, like we didn't forget to check the App Store. What probably happened was the developers stopped paying for their Apple developer account, and so their entire collection of apps was taken down from the App Store. But at some point in recent time, probably in the last month or two, they got the idea to start paying for the account again, which put all of their apps back up. Now, we haven't heard a word from these developers, and we really don't have a way to reach them, so we have no idea what inspired them to do this, but it's certainly a very interesting way for lost media to get found. It pretty much just found itself, and it saved us a lot of work. Now, I'm sure this game probably still violates some type of copyright law, and it's probably the reason they changed the name from Talking Annoying Orange to just Talking Orange, probably to avoid getting sued by the Annoying Orange company. So let me know what you guys thought about these apps, and if you like this video, make sure to drop a like and subscribe. It really helps me out a lot. Also, comment down below which lost apps would you like me to cover next. See ya. A treasure trove for lost media. Millions of apps have been released since the launch of the App Store in 2008, over 15 years ago, and subsequently tens of thousands and maybe even hundreds of thousands of mobile apps are currently lost today. I'm covering some of the most prominent lost mobile games, and some of which I personally played back in the day. So many of you guys loved the last video, so we're back with more lost mobile games. This time we have a really good selection, and you might even remember playing some of these lost games. Make sure to drop a like and subscribe so I can keep making more of these, and without further ado, let's get into it. Our first app is quite famous, but despite this, it has remained lost for over 15 years. This is I Am Rich. I Am Rich was a joke app that released right around when the App Store first launched. The developer of the app, Armin Heinrich, made the app after he saw iPhone users complaining about apps priced over 99 cents. So he priced the app at $999.99. The app is quite useless and all it does is show you a glowing red gem and an icon that, when pressed, displays the following message: I am rich, I deserve it, I am good, healthy, and successful. He even spelled deserve wrong. Armin never expected anyone to buy the app and it was only up for less than a day before Apple took it down. But 8 unlucky people bought the app before it was taken down, and 2 people ended up refunding the app, which means that there are only 6 people on Earth who have the app tied to their Apple account. Now just to remind you, this was back in 2008, so the likelihood of these people even still having the accounts to this day is super slim. Now even though the app was taken off of the App Store, if you purchase an app, it still stays available for you to download on your Apple account, but because we have no idea who these 6 people are, it is really hard to track them down. And even if we did find them, we'd have to get them to dump the IPA file. Now, if you go to Google right now and look up the IPA file, you're gonna find a couple of results. I'm certain that these results are fake just because of the sheer improbability of someone actually coming across the IPA file. And also because of the simplicity of the app. You see, someone could have just recreated it and uploaded it for others to use. And that's likely what happened. It's really not a complex app, so a novice coder can just remake it. The archive page for the supposed app was created in 2022, which makes it even more suspicious because why would they just randomly find the app 14 years later and quietly make an archive page? But yeah, there are 6 lucky Apple accounts out there that have this app tied to them, and I guess we'll never know who they are. But they're probably really rich in order to spend $1,000 in an app, especially back in 2008, you know, with the whole economic recession thing. Having $1,000 to spend on a useless app and not refunding it is pretty crazy. Our next app is from a franchise you likely recognize. We're talking about Bendy in Nightmare Run. This was a spin-off of the Bendy and the Ink Machine games made for mobile. It was released on Android and iOS in 2018, but was unfortunately removed from the App Store because the developers behind the app, Joey Drew Studios, were sued by a company called Fat Mojo. It was removed from the App Store around 1 to 2 years ago, and the thing is, the IPA file has been found and dumped multiple times. The problem comes in the fact that the levels in the game are downloaded from servers and need internet access. Because the game and the servers were taken down, you can't even get past the tutorial on this game even if you have the IPA file downloaded. This is a problem that plagues a couple of other games such as Avo, which you guys probably recognize, and I'll talk about it in another video, but basically a lot of games rely on downloading more data from their company servers, and when these servers go down, there is virtually no way to play these games. It is possibly the most annoying form of lost media because there's really nothing you can do about it. No matter how much you search, you're just not gonna find it. I think I remember playing this game at one point in time, so it's kind of a bummer that it's gone. I mean, it had a pretty cool art style and some nice gameplay, so maybe one day the servers will go back up, because unlike Avo, the company behind Bendy is still alive and kicking. They just had a legal issue regarding the game. Our next game is one that you have to remember playing. This is Angry Grand Run. It was a pretty popular game that I personally played, and it was released around 2013. A couple of years after its release, the company behind the game took it down and replaced it with a 3D version. This was basically just a Subway Surfers knockoff. I mean, it plays and looks very similar. And this was kind of sad to see because they turned a unique game into just another piece of shovelware. Still, the game had a little bit of popularity and it is still on the App Store to this day. But that's the 3D version, and we want the original 2D version. Now, the IPA file for this game was supposedly found in 2022, but the uploader of the IPA had uploaded an encrypted version of the game, which was basically entirely useless and only playable on the device that the IPA was extracted from. An encrypted IPA file is basically just a bunch of jumbled up code, and no one can decrypt it other than the person who uploaded the file. So that was a dead end. But in late 2024, someone who had the game previously installed on their Apple account managed to extract and decrypt the file for everyone to play. I'm sure at least some of you remember playing this game because I could not have possibly been the only person to play this back in the day. I have a lot of memories with this game and it was super fun. Last but not least, our final game for this episode, It's Fred. It's Fred was an iOS-only game released in 2012 based on one of the most popular YouTubers at the time, Fred Figglehorn. Some of you may not know Fred, but he was actually the first ever YouTuber to reach 1 million subscribers, and he did it in 2009. Because of his popularity and an animated series that was being made about him, a company called Thruster Games came up to him and proposed to make a game for him based on the animated series that he had at the time.
What am I doing? Well, I'm just playing the new Fred app.
I should start a charity for squirrels.
And just when you thought throwing Fred around his house and hearing his mom yell at him wasn't fun enough, there's a dance-off section.
The app was priced at 99 cents, and it was this simple 3D adventure game in which you work to defeat a boss called Kevin. The game was pretty much just made to promote the show, and it was very silly, and it was taken off of the App Store not long after its release, and it really only supported up to the iPhone 4. Thing is, a lot of the earlier mobile games were not free, they were paid. Because I guess at the time, people really didn't see any other way of making money from mobile games. So a lot of developers decided to make their apps cost money. Now obviously later on, in-game ads became a thing, and most games that you can download from the App Store are free today. But the paid apps bring somewhat of an issue to the topic of lost media, because not everyone is willing to spend even just $1 on a phone game. But luckily we did find one person who was willing to spend that money at the time, and that was Supreme Cheese. And in December of 2024, the game was found and uploaded to archive.org. So now all of the 4 remaining Fred fans can rest easy knowing that the game is no longer lost media. So that was all of the games for this video. I tried to include a couple of games from your suggestions, and I will keep doing that in the future. So if you have any games you'd like me to cover next, then leave a comment down below, as well as liking and subscribing, because it helps a lot more than you think. Anyways, thank you for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. See ya! Looks like you guys can't get enough lost media, so I'm back here with a third part of mobile game lost media. In this part, I'm covering some of the most requested games from the comments, along with a couple games that you might remember from your childhood. So make sure to like, subscribe, and comment which game you'd like me to cover next, and let's get into it. If you were a kid back in 2019 and you watched FGTV, then you definitely remember this game. This is Avo by Playdio, and it was this interactive augmented reality puzzle game in which you beat the different stages by using your finger to move Avo, the avocado, around. FGTV's video on the game ended up garnering over 32 million views, which instantly skyrocketed the game's popularity. Eventually though, around 4 years later in 2023, the company behind Avo, Playdio, wasn't making enough money and decided to file for bankruptcy. You know, this is kinda normal. Not every company lasts forever, so after the company shut down, they took down all of their apps with them. This made it so that Avo could no longer be downloaded from the App Store. So one would think that all we'd have to do is get someone who already had the app downloaded and tell them to extract the IPA file for everyone to download. I wish it was that simple, but unfortunately that was not the case. After I made a TikTok about the game, someone actually came out and extracted the IPA file so that we could all download it. And to be honest, it looked super promising. I remember loading up the game and actually being able to play it, but that was only for the first level. You see, by the time I got to the second level, that's when I realized what the problem was. This game is structured into levels, and only the first level of the game was actually free to play. The rest of the levels had to be purchased and downloaded from a server. The thing is, with lost games, is that we usually can get around the in-app purchases one way or another, but in this case, even if you did buy the extra levels, you would still have to download them. And with the company being shut down, there are no servers to download the extra levels from. So while this game is not entirely lost, 8 out of the 9 levels in the game are impossible to download, rendering it mostly lost to this day, 6 years later. I think we're all familiar with the Five Nights at Freddy's franchise, as well as the creator behind them, Scott Cawthon. But Five Nights at Freddy's wasn't the first game he made. He actually had a lot of game projects prior to ever making FNAF. Most of these were mobile games that later received PC ports. There's honestly a lot of games that I could cover, but it would make for its own video, so I'm really just picking out one. And the one that stood out to me the most was Fighter Mage Bard. This game was released in early 2014, a few months before the release date of the first FNAF game. There's really not much information regarding this game on the internet, but there is a gameplay video out there which you can see playing in the background. And you can just see how much Scott Cawthon's style was already solidified going into the first FNAF game. He really loved that CRT old school kind of look. This game was released for iOS, and funnily enough, it was also released for Windows Phone. Both of these versions are completely lost, and there's pretty much no trace of them to this day. And if you were curious enough to look it up online, you might find an archive page for an APK file of the game. But I'm warning you, do not download it because the game was never released on Android, so the APK file is completely fake. In late 2015, the game was actually reskinned and presented as FNAF World Halloween Edition, as sort of an early version of FNAF World. But if you ever played FNAF World, you know this game has nothing to do with it. Our next game is quite a peculiar one. This is Rabbids Arby's Rush. A lot of you might know the Rabbids franchise for their Nintendo games, but they actually had a few mobile games developed as well. One of these being Rabbids Arby's Rush, which was a collab between the Rabbids franchise and Arby's out of every single company on earth. It was a Subway Surfer style game in which you played as a rabbit inside of an Arby's. Yeah, very weird combo, I know. Though the exact date of when the game was taken down is unknown, it was likely taken down around 2020 or 2021. While the game itself was a very interesting collab between two unexpected companies, the gameplay itself was nothing too crazy. As you can see on the screen, they really were just trying to cash in on the Subway Surfers trend. The game's life was short-lived, only being around for just over a year or two, so it's clear that it probably did not get much attention despite the Rabbids franchise being quite popular. Despite this, the game was actually found a few months ago by Dipper Gaming. You may or may not recognize the name Dipper Gaming, but he was actually one of the people that helped archive Charlie the Steak, and he had helped us get the IPA file for it. So he's done quite a bit for Lost Mobile games. Anyways, this game was a pretty cool find, and it's quite interesting, so let me know if you ever played this. Our next game is a highly requested one. This is Zoob. Zoob was a video messaging platform, and they had a web-based and iOS and Android version. The app was available from October 2011 all the way until April 2017. The main use for this app was recording voice messages which would be said back to you via a 3D animated character. Zoob actually ended up collaborating with a lot of popular franchises, including characters from Pac-Man, the Smurfs, Cut the Rope, and even Ice Age, which were all completely legal and licensed, so Zoob was the real deal. It was around 2015 when the popularity for Zoob picked up and people started making memes out of the videos that the app produced.
Excuse me, what the actual—
I truly did not realize the sheer amount of memes that made their way over to modern social media like TikTok that originated from Zoob. It's actually kind of insane just the number of memes that I'm like, wait a minute, I recognize this. And I only recently found out that they originated from this app. So this app might have been more influential than I originally thought. As I said before, Zoob had a website version and an app version. And when the website version was shut down in 2017, it displayed this message when you tried to open the website. But even trying to access older versions of the website using the Wayback Machine proved to be unsuccessful. The Zoob APK file was actually found, but it seems like the app requires you to connect to the Zoob servers. And when you try to run the Zoob APK today, you're greeted with this message telling you to check your internet connection and to try again later. Zoob left a pretty big impact on the social media space, and the likely reason that it was shut down so suddenly in 2017 was probably that all of the licensing costs were way too expensive, since they were licensing characters from some of the biggest movies and games at the time. I personally never used the app, and I really didn't hear about it until recently because of you guys, but it seems a lot of you loved the app back in the day and it really resonated with you, so I decided to add it to this video. Anyways, let me know what you thought about these lost games, and if you could drop a like and subscribe, that would really help a lot, as well as commenting which lost games you would like me to cover next, because I really do read the comments, and 3 out of the 4 games I covered today were actually from the comment section suggested by you guys, so there's a likely chance that the game you suggest will be mentioned in my next video. So yeah, comment down below. See ya! has revolutionized the way that millions of people play games, introducing new genres of games and making games more accessible to everyone around the world. Mobile games have existed since the very first mobile phones ever came out, and the space has changed and gone through many eras through the last couple of decades. And with this much change in the industry, hundreds of thousands of games have come and gone, with many of them becoming lost media. That's right, welcome to the fourth part of the mobile game lost media series. Today we've got some fun ones and I'm sure you'll recognize a couple of these games. Before we get started, if you have any suggestions for games I should cover in future videos, please leave them in the comment section down below because I do read the comments and it's very likely that the game you suggest will be included in my next video. But without further ado, let's get into it. Starting off with our first game on the list, Five Nights at Freddy's AR. This was a mobile game spin-off of the Five Nights at Freddy's franchise that made use of augmented reality technologies to turn your house into a Five Nights at Freddy's map. The aim of the game is basically to fend off the animatronics that walked around your house through various methods like zapping them or shining a flashlight in their face. This game was quite interesting because it was the first Five Nights at Freddy's game that was truly designed for mobile, and it wasn't just a port of a PC game. It was only made for the phone and it took advantage of features like the gyroscope and the camera to give you an immersive augmented reality experience. This game launched in 2019 and was unfortunately taken down in 2024. The problem with this game was that it relied heavily on an internet connection and it needed to connect with the servers to download content. With the game being taken down, its servers were also taken down along with it. This means that even if you were to get the APK or IPA files for Android or iPhone respectively, you would not be able to use them as most of the content of the game would be unavailable. This renders the game mostly lost as there is really no way for most people to access the game. It's quite a shame though, since this game was a pretty cool twist on the franchise. I personally played the game back in 2020 and I thought it was pretty fun, but I didn't really play it for that long, so if you did, let me know what you think about Five Nights at Freddy's AR. The next game on the list is one that a lot of people should recognize. This is Minecraft Story Mode for mobile. I'm sure we all know what Minecraft Story Mode is. It was a very popular game back in the mid-2010s and pretty much every Minecraft YouTuber was either playing it or talking about it at the time. It was basically the Minecraft movie before the Minecraft movie. But anyways, this game actually had a mobile port and it pretty much lasted as long as the other versions of the game lasted, coming out at around the same time and getting removed from the App Store in 2019. Now the thing is, when Telltale Games, the creators behind Minecraft Story Mode, ended support for the game, they ended it for all platforms, so it pretty much became lost on every platform for a while, but on mobile it remained lost the longest because it was more difficult to archive than other versions. It wasn't until 7 months ago, around 5 years after the game was taken down, that the game was actually successfully archived for both Android and iOS. Like Five Nights at Freddy's AR, this game required online downloads, but with the way that the developer set it up, it was much easier for players who had previously installed all the episodes and content from the game to archive it and upload it to the internet. Now the process of actually getting the game on your device is more difficult than just installing an IPA or APK file. You actually have to go into the folders of your system and paste different files in different locations. Despite this, I'm glad that the game was archived, but now that I think about it, I remember a Netflix version existing as well. Now that one is definitely lost because I don't think you can really archive Netflix games, but let me know if you played Minecraft Story Mode specifically on mobile. I will admit the next game is not really lost media, but I came across it while I was researching for this video and it really brought me back, so I thought I'd mention it. This is Tasty Planet. It's a game where you basically start as a bacteria that is meant to serve as a cleaning solution. And the way you clean is by eating dirt and other particles. The thing is, the scientist who invented you did not realize that you would get bigger each time you ate something, and at one point you get so big that you eat the entire world. This game came out around 2011, and some of you, if you're old enough, may remember playing this game. Me personally, I did not play the mobile version as a kid. I actually remember playing the desktop version, which you can find today on those sketchy game websites like Poki. I must admit it is starting to show its age, but it's got me thinking of a new series that would be called something like Forgotten Mobile Games, or just Forgotten Games in general, in which I talk about some old but not necessarily lost games. So let me know what you guys think about that idea down below. Is this a series you'd be interested in seeing? But yeah, I just thought I'd share this game, and back to the lost media. Our next and final lost game is Skylanders Lost Islands. Now the name is kind of ironic, but this game was one of the many Skylanders mobile games that Activision ended up publishing in order to promote their franchise. If you don't know, Skylanders was a Toys to Life game franchise that started in 2011 and ended in 2016. You would basically grab these toy figurines called Skylanders and place them on a portal that was connected to your console, and this would bring the toys to life inside the game. Now this was pretty mind-blowing to a lot of kids at the time, and it still is pretty cool, but because of the success of this franchise, Activision decided to expand to the mobile space, creating some spin-offs of the Skylanders games and even porting a couple of full Skylanders games onto the iPad. But today we're talking about Skylanders Lost Islands. The main plot of this game is that some people got their village destroyed by the main villain, Chaos, and you had to help them build the village back up. It was very much in line with a trend in mobile gaming at the time, which were these kind of village building games. A lot, and I mean a lot, of different franchises were joining this trend and making their own versions of these games themed to fit their own franchises. I remember playing a game similar to this one that was about Shrek and another one that was about Smurfs. I actually found the games I was talking about. It was Smurfs Village and Shrek's Fairy Tale Kingdom. And interestingly enough, Smurfs Village was actually the highest grossing iPhone game in 2010. Beating Angry Birds. So yeah, I mean, I guess the games were pretty popular. But why is Shrek making that face? So naturally, Skylanders got their turn, and in 2012, Skylanders Lost Islands was released. Gameplay wise, it wasn't really similar to the other Skylanders games, and it was, in every meaning of the word, a spin-off, but it had its own charm and a community that loved the game. But unfortunately, in 2017, the game was removed from the App Store and support for the game ended. But if I know anything about the Skylanders community, it's that they will fight for their franchise. And so in 2023, 6 years after the game was taken down, the game was successfully archived and you can now play it once again. As far as I know, the game is fully playable on BlueStacks, which is an Android emulator, and I believe it's also playable on Android phones, but I'm not too sure about iPhone. You may need to jailbreak your device in order to get it to work. But it's great to see that the game is back up and running for a lot of people. If there's anything we've learned from this video and the past mobile game lost media videos, it's that a lot of the times that mobile games became lost, it's because the companies behind them ended support for them, which kinda sucks. But anyways, let me know what you guys thought about these lost mobile games. Have you played any of them, or do you remember seeing someone else playing any of them? If so, let me know down in the comments below, and also leave a comment with any recommendations of games you'd like me to cover in the next video. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe, it would really help me out a lot. See ya! Store's launch in 2008, people started realizing that they could create anything they imagined and put it on the App Store for others to download. And in the last 17 years, millions of apps have been published on the App Store. Hundreds of thousands of those apps were removed from the App Store at one point or another, but today, around 4 million apps still stand on the App Store, with over 1 million of them being games. But what happened to the thousands of apps that were removed? Well, a lot of them were archived and shared as IPA files, but others completely disappeared and became lost media. Today, I'm covering some of the most interesting examples of mobile game lost media, so let's get into it. Sick Bricks was a Toys to Life game created by Spin Master, and you've probably seen this logo before since they're responsible for creating many childhood toys. They aim to replicate the success that games from the Toys to Life era had, such as Skylanders, but with a unique twist, and while making the toys more affordable and eliminating the $70 starter pack you needed to even start playing the other Toys to Life games. The game was free to play with the option to buy toys and integrate them into the game world. The figures looked a lot like Legos and could be mixed and match to create a unique character combination with different combinations of abilities. The camera would then scan the figures and add them into the game. The game takes place in Sick City, which was under attack by an evil organization run by Overlord Omega. It featured a top-down view where you could tap to move your characters and attack enemies. This game was super accessible to many because a large portion of it was free, and also it didn't require any NFC technology like other Toys to Life games from that time. While other Toys to Life games required a scanner or a portal to work, this one just needed your camera. The launch launch of Sick Bricks was not unsuccessful, but sales were not as high as Spin Master expected. The Sick Bricks toys stopped production in late 2015, but remained in stores around a year after that, mostly in clearance aisles. What is quite admirable, however, is the fact that the Sick Bricks app remained functional all the way until 2020, when the servers for the app were shut down and the app was removed from the App Store. Even if the IPA or the APK file for the game was found, it would be pretty difficult for the game to actually get to a playable state since the servers are offline, and the game needs to download a lot of information off of the servers, so it's pretty much unplayable until you connect. However, this is one of the cases where I am hopeful it could be found if someone who has a fully downloaded version of the game can dump it for others to play. After doing some research, I found that there are some people interested in bringing the game back, mostly on Reddit, but unfortunately it seems like there isn't enough interest to get a full archival effort going. This game has been on the tip of my tongue for so many years, and when I finally remembered it actually existed and it was a real game and not just a figment of my imagination, I was ecstatic. Only to later realize that the game is lost media. Anyways, let me know if you've played Sick Bricks before, and if you have, do you still have the toys from the game? On January 3rd, 2013, a video from the channel Thinker titled 14-year-old prodigy programmer dreams in code was published. This video made the rounds across YouTube and other social media and ended up amassing over 12 million views. The video documents a 14-year-old kid by the name of Santiago Gonzalez who was pretty much a genius. He knew over 12 programming languages by heart, and he graduated high school and started college in the 6th grade. And he also finished his master's degree in computer science by the age of 17. Now, you might be wondering what this has to do with mobile game lost media, so just give me a second, I'll get to it. You see, Santiago had created games for the iPhone, iPad, and Mac. At the time that this video was released, he had created over 15 apps for the iPad, mostly consisting of games. He claims his games had thousands of downloads, and considering each one of them cost at least 99 cents, that's a pretty decent number of downloads. Today, all of his apps are long gone from the App Store with pretty much no trace of them whatsoever. And this is like the only clip we have of what games he actually developed, along with minimal gameplay from this same video. Now, there's a chance he didn't remove the apps from the App Store himself and Apple actually did it for him. Because in 2017, with the release of iOS 11, Apple dropped support for all 32-bit apps. And pretty much any apps that were not updated to 64-bit by that time were completely deleted. Well, not deleted completely, but removed from the App Store. And that could possibly explain why the apps are gone since the video is 12 years old. And so they were probably taken down sometime in 2017. I also remember seeing MLG edits of this specific video back in the day, but those are pretty much completely gone from YouTube as well. I tried looking everywhere for them, and I know my memory is not failing me here. Those MLG videos definitely existed, and I remember like the frog and everything. So please, if you're seeing this video and you also saw this same MLG video, please let me know in the comments down below, because I cannot be the only one who actually remembers seeing this video and the memes that came out of it. So please let me know in the comments if you know what I'm talking about. Today, Santiago is a machine learning research engineer at Apple, working at the intersection of computer vision and natural language. I don't know what any of that means, but good for him. He's always wanted to work at Apple, and I guess he achieved his dream. So yeah, shout out Santiago. Bloxworld is a game that is very near and dear to my heart. It was a sandbox building game that is quite similar in concept to Roblox, but it was still quite unique. Instead of requiring a separate program on PC to create your own games, Bloxworld had an engine built into the app itself that was super accessible and easy to use, so much so that even little kids could create their own games with ease. It also had something that Roblox doesn't really have to this day, which is a robust physics engine completely built into the game. Without any coding whatsoever, users could create working planes, cars, and some pretty complicated builds just through the in-game engine. There was also an optional block-based logic system that is very similar to Scratch in the sense that you could program certain things to behave in specific ways, and it was pretty easy to understand. Once users create their game, they can publish it for everyone to be able to play completely free of charge. When people played or interacted with your games, you got coins which you could then use to buy certain block packs that you could add to your builds. So there was this entire in-game economy for free. The game peaked in popularity between 2014 and 2017 with a slow decline after 2017. It kept declining all the way until 2020 when Linden Labs, the company behind the game, announced that they were shutting the game down along with its servers. This sucked because players who had put hours hours into creating their own games and worlds lost everything completely with no real way to archive their builds. And so after the game shut down, the game slowly faded into obscurity and became lost media. But this might change because in 2024, they announced that they were working on an effort to revive the game. A Kickstarter campaign began and over $28,000 were raised to help fund the game's revival. The game is currently available for wishlist on Steam, and there is hope for the iOS version to be released quite soon. I really hope this game picks up traction again since I used to play it so much as a kid, and I hope at least a few of you guys did as well. When the re-release does happen, the game will probably be quite different to the original, so we can't say that the game will be fully found once it does re-release, but it'll be somewhat similar to the original, probably just with UI and graphics updates, and I'm fine with that, to be honest. Anyways, let me know what you guys thought about these lost games, and this was honestly a super nostalgic video for me to make since every one of these were somewhat part of my childhood, and I hope that there are others watching and hopefully commenting that shared the same experience as me, because I'd be pretty sad to find out I was the only one to have played these games or to have watched this video. But a like and sub would be truly appreciated, and let me know what type of video you'd like to see from me next and what games/topics you'd like me to cover. See ya! Lost media is one of the most interesting forms of lost media. There are so many games that people played, watched others play, or just saw on the App Store in passing, only to later find out that the games were deleted and completely wiped out from the internet. The hunt to find these lost games through someone who had them previously installed is definitely difficult, but feels super satisfying when the games are finally found. Today, I'm covering some of the most interesting examples of mobile game lost media, so let's get into it. The Cheetos app of Mass Distraction was the first official Cheetos related app ever released. It released around 2011, although the exact date is unknown. During this time, it was a trend for fast food and snack companies to release apps to promote their products. The marketing behind this app followed the idea that this app would distract you, hence the name App of Mass Distraction, and that it would destroy your productivity and attention span. Yeah, I don't think any company would market their app like that today. There were multiple minigames on the app, and the app made use of the phone's speaker to allow you to control one of those minigames by blowing on it. In this minigame, your aim was to push a Cheeto as high as you could with your cheesy breath. This game was called Hover Cheese. The other game, called Thumble Rumble, was basically a thumb war type of game where as you beat your opponents, you would get harder and harder opponents to play against. There was also a supposed third game called Cheetapult that I can't really find any information about other than this description. Cheetapult knew, turn your smartphone into a game controller and launch Cheetos mix-ups into a YouTube video on your computer. This is some pretty state-of-the-art technology, so blaze your own cheesy trail and launch yourself and your family into a snack slinging frenzy. I think it's crazy that they marketed this app as lowering your attention span and people actually thought that this was a good idea and downloaded it. We're not talking about some obscure app here. This was an official Cheetos branded app, and at one point it was in the top 10 free apps on all of the App Store, even being above Vine at one point. Today, the app is nowhere to be found. Remnants of its advertising and marketing are found online, but the app itself is long gone. What I find interesting is that there are virtually no gameplay videos of this game online. It makes it seem like this game didn't really exist because outside the advertising, there's no discussion about this game, no reviews, no forum posts, nothing. This game was suggested by Rayman Adventures, so I want to thank them really quick because this seems like such an interesting game and I do hope it gets found. So let me know if you've heard of this game before.
Say, what would you give to enhance your distractibility?
$50,000!
Not even.
The results were staggering. In some demographics, productivity stopped completely.
I used to be a CFO. Then I found Hover Cheese. Now, I sell hammers.
Our next entry is a game based on something you've definitely heard of before. This is Talking Gummy Bar, based on the famous Talking Gummy Bear music video. After the music video's viral success, the company behind the song decided to capitalize on it and release a game. This was around 2012, and the most popular mobile apps at the time were the talking games, most notably Talking Tom. The character would repeat what you say to them in a high pitch, have certain animations depending on where you tap the screens, and there were buttons you could press that would play a snippet of the Gummy Bear song. There was also a kind of Guitar Hero type of game, but really dumbed down for kids. I'm sure people were really impressed by this app at the time since it looked just like the gummy bear in the music video. And today, looking up Talking Gummy Bar gives you 2 entries, one on Google Play Store and one on the Apple App Store. And while at first glance they might seem the same as the original from 2012, they are completely different. The best way to explain it would be that the Lost Gummy Bar game is like the original 2010 Talking Tom, while the currently available one is the My Talking Tom game. While they are similar, one is a completely remastered and rewritten game for newer devices. This is the game currently available, and you can probably note that it looks quite different and maybe even a little bit worse. That's because this game looks like it uses a 3D model to render the game in real time, while the old version was just a series of pre-rendered frames, which pretty much every talking game used, since at the time the devices didn't really have that much power to render the frames in real time. But now that they do, this kind of just looks worse. There are also mini games available very much like the new My Talking Tom games. To be honest, they're completely unrelated to anything Gummy Bear. A lot of them don't even feature the Gummy Bear in them. There's a basketball one, there's a mini golf one, and like they kind of just feel uninspired because they can be part of literally any other game. There's also a color matching one, which is honestly not too bad. It does feature the Gummy Bear faces on it, so I'll give that one a pass. But overall, it would be nice to actually just find the original game. Today, the original IPA file of the game remains lost with no real traces to find it, but a supposed APK file of the original 2012 version exists on the Internet Archive, posted by Jacob Iturbide in 2024. I'm not confident that this is the real version from 2012, but there is a chance that it could be, so let me know if you end up testing it out. And also let me know if you've ever played this game before in the comments. Just a quick little update, it turns out that the Talking Gummy Bar IPA file was actually found at some point in time, but it became lost media once again. At one point it was archived by a user named JC Talk Gaming, and you might have heard of this name before, since he was responsible for archiving a lot of lost games, but unfortunately a few months ago he decided to just delete his whole account and online presence. That basically leaves us with the game becoming lost media again. When you try to visit the Internet Archive link for the IPA file, you get the message that this item is no longer available. Items may be taken down for various reasons, including by decision of the uploader or due to violation of our terms of use. So yeah, it's kind of a bummer, but maybe someone had it downloaded at some point and can re-upload it to the archive for us. I don't know. Annoying Orange Splatter Up was an official game based on the Annoying Orange series. It was a slingshot style game where you would try and launch the character as far as you possibly could to earn a higher score. The game released in 2013 at the height of Annoying Orange's popularity. You could fling Annoying Orange, Pear, Apple, Marshmallow, and other characters, and they all played their own unique voice lines. And if you hit a kitchen utensil or appliance such as a blender, toaster, or even a loose electric cable, you would get more points. The launch mechanic reminds me of Angry Birds in the way you throw the characters, and the game has a mix of all of the elements that made Annoying Orange popular at the time. In 2019, an updated version of the app was released, and we know this because the Annoying Orange gaming channel made a video announcing it. This was likely a 64-bit version of the game since Apple was removing support for 32-bit apps at the time, and developers needed to update their games or risk getting them removed. This means that the game was up for at least 6 years between 2013 to 2019, but sometime after 2019, we don't really know when, the game was removed from the App Store with no warning or reason. This game is considered partially lost because there exist APK files that people claim are the fully working game, but it looks like they do need an internet connection to connect to the servers, which is not possible anymore. I have yet to test the APK version of the game myself, but as far as we know, the Apple IPA file for the game is completely gone. There is one person on the Internet Archive who uploaded an IPA claiming it was the game, but that file just does not work, so that means that only the Android version is partially found. This game would be pretty cool to find since it's the first ever game played on the Annoying Orange YouTube channel, and it just looks like a fun game overall, so let me know if you've played Annoying Orange Splatter Up. Anyways, tell me in the comments down below what you thought about these lost games. The games I mentioned in this video were definitely not obscure by any means, so I'm honestly quite shocked that they're lost, but this means that they're more likely to have been played by one of you guys, which should hopefully increase the chances of them being found. Let me know what lost games you'd like me to cover in the next video, and a like and sub would be truly appreciated. See ya! Since I made one of these videos, but I thought I would revisit this series due to high requests. So welcome back to another episode of Mobile Game Lost Media, where I talk about some mobile games that were once thriving, being the chosen games for many mobile gamers across the world, but unfortunately ended up falling into obscurity with players unable to locate any playable copies of the game. Let's get into it. Starting off, we have Sims Mobile, and I wanted to start off with this game for one very special reason, and that's because as of of 3 days ago from when I posted this video, Sims Mobile officially got sunsetted, meaning the game servers were shut down and the game was deleted. On January 20th of 2026, players of The Sims Mobile had to say goodbye to their Sims forever. EA warned of this happening months in advance, but there was nothing players could really do to back up their progress or save their Sims. All they could do was simply wait until the inevitable shutdown of the game they put many hours into. Now, I put this game first because of just how recently it got shut down, but a lot of you might be confused on why it's making it into a lost media video, since people must still have the game if it was just shut down 3 days ago. So is this game really lost? And the problem with a lot of these mobile games is that they relied entirely on the servers, meaning you needed the servers to deliver player save data and to deliver the actual content of the game. The game has to stay in communication with the servers to actually be playable, and since the servers were shut down, the game is completely unplayable. So the files themselves are completely useless. The game files themselves are a skeleton with the actual game's content existing somewhere in the cloud. The only way to get the game back to a playable state is for someone to reverse engineer the servers, which would take a ton of time and effort. This was a similar situation to the game Avo, which had a bunch of different levels, with 90% of the levels having to be downloaded from their servers. So when it came time for the servers to shut down, the levels of the game were no longer accessible. I really don't like when game companies do this. At the very least, if a game company wants to shut down a game, they should at least add an offline mode to the game so that the game can still be played without having to be connected to the servers. Knowing EA and how they operate, the servers for The Sims Mobile are probably already completely wiped and are probably just gonna go to hosting servers for another game. But yeah, let me know if you played The Sims Mobile, and if you did, how do you feel about the game being deleted? Next up, I actually have two games which fall into the same category. Let's start off with Angry Birds Breaker. Angry Birds Breaker was an unreleased game created by Rovio sometime before 2015. This game went completely unnoticed for 8 years until the test flight Terra leak happened. The Terra leak was a major leak of unreleased iOS apps and game builds that were distributed through Apple's test flight system and then publicly dumped online. Basically, developers use test flight in order to deploy test versions of apps so that people can try them out. And so when this leak happened, a bunch of these apps got released into the public. Some of these apps were fully released and were able to be downloaded and used, while others were already removed from test flight by the time the leak happened, and so only minor information about the apps was leaked. Unfortunately, Angry Birds Breaker was part of the second group, and apart from the image you see on screen right now, there's really not much known about the game. Some people speculate that the game was a copy of the game Breakout, and it honestly seems like the most plausible theory to me, because Angry Birds is really based on the idea of breaking tiles and bricks using the birds, and so I wouldn't be surprised if they saw the similarities between that and Breakout and decided to put the two ideas together. Maybe there was a pig sitting on top of the bricks and you had to slingshot the birds upwards where they would bounce around and then break the bricks. Either way, it seems like it would have been a cool idea, and I wish we had more information about the game other than the name in the picture. But we do know for sure that at one point a test version of the game existed, because that's what you need to upload to test flight. It just so happened that they took it down before the leak happened. Our next game happens to also be an Angry Birds game. This is Angry Birds Islands, a short-lived village building game where birds and pigs actually work together. Pigs collect and create resources while birds fight monsters to rescue piglets. I don't think I've ever seen an Angry Birds game where the pigs and the birds work together, so this was a pretty unique game as far as Angry Birds go. The game released for beta between March and April of 2017, but not even 3 months later, on June 26, 2017, the official Angry Birds Facebook page made a post saying that the game would be shut down the next day. The in-app purchases were disabled and the game was removed from the Play Store and iOS App Store on June 27, 2017. I'm not sure why this game was cancelled. It had to have been a horrific failure to not even last 3 months. And unfortunately, even though you might be able to find the APK online, which I would not recommend, since the only sites that claim to have it are very sketchy and have viruses. But even if you did end up finding it, you won't even be able to play the game because these servers were shut down, making this game suffer the same fate as The Sims Mobile. I personally never heard of this game during the time that it was out, and I really don't know why it was so short-lived, but it seems like it would have been a pretty cool game. Let me know if you ever played Angry Birds Islands. Our next two games are also quite similar to each other. We have Where's My Mickey and Where's My Perry. These two games were developed by Disney Mobile and were spin-offs of the Where's My Water series. They released in 2012, and Where's My Mickey was a crossover with Mickey Mouse, obviously, and Where's My Perry was a crossover with the TV show Phineas and Ferb. These games had unique levels compared to Where's My Water and were themed around their respective characters and shows. The games ended up being removed in the late 2010s, and since then there haven't been a lot of, if any at all, proper archives of the games. I wouldn't go as far as calling these games fully lost media, since I do believe that there are certain versions of these games games, even though they're not complete, that do exist, but a lot of the downloads for these games come up as viruses for some reason, and you can even see people pointing it out in the comments of the archive pages. So there might be versions out there, but they might have viruses infecting them. So I would also not recommend you try to download these games. But the thing that is truly lost about these games are their DLCs. Even when you do find the files for the game, to actually play the complete catalog of levels, you would need someone to upload the OBB files as well as the APK, but that's for Android, and I'm not even sure if uploading DLCs is possible for iOS. These games were very popular, especially because they were developed by Disney, and Where's My Water was super popular at the time, which obviously reflected in these games. And it's kind of unfortunate that part of these games will be lost for a long time, if not forever. I was able to find the names of the lost levels specifically in Where's My Mickey, and here are the names. The first level is called A Glass Half Empty, in which you have to guide the water vapor so Mickey can get some drinking water. The next level is called The Menace of Venice, which is pretty similar conceptually but takes place in the city of Venice. The level after that is called Van Goofy, and in this one you have to deliver paint to Goofy, since I guess he decided to become an artist in this game. I honestly really like the vibe of this one, and it's quite unique. And the final level we have is Shipwrecked, which also features Goofy, but in this one he is stranded on an island, and I guess you have to deliver some type of juice to a plant that will spit on the item in front of Goofy to turn it into food. I don't really get this one. But there's some pretty unique ideas in these levels, and it's kind of a bummer that they are now completely lost to time. So let me know if you played Where's My Mickey or Where's My Perry. So yeah, that's all for this video. A like and sub would be truly appreciated. And let me know what you'd like me to cover in my next video. And when I say this, I actually mean it, because a lot of the time, the games that I talk about come from the comment section. So if you'd like me to talk about a lost game that you love, make sure to let me know in the comments. Also, follow my Twitch if you're cool. See ya! For long months, the Lost Mobile Game series is finally back. Welcome to Mobile Game Lost Media Part 8. I've got some goodies to cover today, but before we get into it, if you're not already subbed, make sure to subscribe so you can keep up with the series. And if you end up enjoying the video, a like would be truly appreciated. Now, let's get on to the video. Starting off, we have Dead Farm Massacre, and while the name is pretty disturbing, the gameplay itself was actually pretty innocent and fun. The game was made by Psycho Bear Studios and was released in 2013 exclusively for iOS. Here's what a Lost Media Wiki post says about the game. It's basically a self-defense game, kinda like Plants vs. Zombies, where you have to protect yourself from a horde of zombies represented as farm animals. Once the zombies attack your farm, or you run out of ammo, you're dead. You can buy and upgrade your weapons in order to do more damage to the zombies. Unfortunately, the game was apparently removed from the App Store a few years later and was never seen again. The remains I was able to find are the game's icons and some screenshots that I got from both the iPhone and the iPad listings for the game. This game is nearly fully lost, and there's only 2 gameplay videos of it on the internet. The first video was made by Lonnie Dose and was posted on August 7th, 2013. The video got over 1 million views, so a lot of people have seen this game and it got a lot of attention. The second video is the gameplay you're seeing on screen right now, and it's from iTouch Power. And that's it. Those are the only 2 gameplay videos of Dead Farm Massacre. The game is pretty simple, but it honestly looks quite cool. It does remind me a lot of Plants vs. Zombies, similar to what the user on the Lost Media Wiki said, but it looks like it has a little bit more skill over strategy since you have to aim at the zombies in real time. Today, Psycho Bear Studios has no games on the App Store. When you look at their page, it's completely empty. Their website is also down, so there's really no way to reach out to them to get their attention. It's pretty crazy to me how a game could get over 1 million views on YouTube and not a single person thought to archive it. But if you remember playing the game back in the day and you still have your old Apple account, then you could probably still download the game and be able to archive it 13 years later. Our next game is Rayman Adventures. Rayman Adventures was a free-to-play mobile Rayman game released in 2015 for both iOS and Android and developed by Ubisoft. It looked and played just like the console Rayman games, and honestly at a glance it looked very polished, but apparently it had a few glitches that stayed unfixed all the way until the game was shut down. The game had this egg system where you could hatch creatures called Incrediballs that could help you during the levels. The game ended up being shut down in 2023, and Ubisoft never really gave a formal explanation as to why the game was shut down, nor did they even mention it once. Players just woke up one day and the game was gone from the App Store. Now, the game's APK and IPA files were found, so how is it still lost media? Well, this game was what is known as a live service game. And so if you install the APK or IPA file, you'll be able to open up the game and it might look like everything is completely working. Until you get to Adventure 3, where the game will tell you you need to connect to its servers to download the rest of the game. Not only that, but you also can't hatch any of the eggs to get the Incrediballs. So the game is practically useless after just a couple of levels. It's basically just a demo in its current form after being shut down. It really sucks that you can just take a game down without notice and disappoint all of your fans. In 2026, there are currently efforts to try and bring the game functionality back, although from what I've found, none of them have been completed yet. So all of the Rayman fans are gonna have to sit tight and wait for some people to work their magic and make the game functional once again. So let me know if you played Rayman Adventures. Next up, we have SpongeBob SquarePants Atlantis Treasures, which I'm just gonna call Atlantis Treasures. Atlantis Treasures was a 2007 mobile game developed by Venon Entertainment and published by THQ Wireless. It was launched as a tie-in to the popular Nickelodeon television special SpongeBob's Atlantis SquarePantis. The 2007 version of the game was released on Nokia devices, but in 2008, the game was released for iPhone and iPod Touch. There is very little information about the game out there. There are no gameplay videos whatsoever, and the most informative description of the game we have is from an IGN review from back in 2008. They describe the game like this: players explore 5 challenging rooms in this Atlantean fortress to search for the ultimate treasure, oldest bubble in Atlantis. Spin a 3D game board to match up falling jewels in the treasure room, explosive mines in the weapons room, molecules in the science room, paint blobs in the art room, and colorful bubbles in the oldest bubble room. Earn points and amulets, but always stay on the lookout for special pieces, color blasts, wild cards, row blasts, and much more. They can help or challenge along the way. Keep matching skills honed, and the treasures of Atlantis could be yours for the taking. IGN ended up giving the game a 6 out of 10, and their verdict was that Atlantis Treasures suffers from its relatively slow pace. It's good for younger players, but anybody well versed in puzzle classics like Jewel Quest or Collapse risk getting bored much sooner than expected. The photos you're seeing on screen right now are the only photos I've been able to find of the game, and I'm glad that there was at least this IGN review out there, because if there wasn't, then I don't think anybody would remember this game. Even though the game isn't that complex and it is pretty generic, I still think it's really interesting that somewhere out there there's a device with the game installed on it that has been hidden away for years and years. So hopefully the game winds up being found someday, but the chances are pretty slim, to be honest. And when I say the chances are slim, I'm talking about the 2008 iPhone and iPod Touch version, because I have no hope that the 2007 version would ever be found. I mean, this was before the App Store existed. You would have had to download the game directly from your telephone carrier at the time, or sometimes you would have to go to a mobile shop in order to get the game downloaded onto your device. And honestly, in this day and age, I don't think anyone has their Nokia or whatever type of phone from that era anyway, so it's pretty much a lost cause. But let me know if you ever played SpongeBob's Atlantis Treasures. Next up, I want to cover what happens when a company actually thinks before shutting their game down, and surprisingly, the company that did this is none other than Nintendo. I am just as surprised as you are. In 2017, Nintendo released a mobile game called Animal Crossing Pocket Camp, and a lot of people liked this game. It kind of filled the Animal Crossing void that a lot of people who didn't own a Nintendo Switch had. The game had continuous updates and many microtransactions for 7 years before shutting down in December December of 2024. But instead of just shutting it down and removing it from the App Store, Nintendo decided to do something a little different. They replaced the game with a new version called Animal Crossing Pocket Camp Complete. Unlike the original version, which was free, this version of the game was paid, and it cost a whopping $20. But it included all of the DLCs and microtransactions you could buy in the first game. This was an offline version of the game that wasn't gonna be updated anymore, but offered the full experience that you would have gotten if you played the free-to-play game up to that point. Now, do I think $20 is a fair price for a game that used to be free? Absolutely not. But I still think it is a much better option than taking the game down and making it inaccessible for anyone to play in the future. Turning a live service game into an offline version when you take the game down is, in my opinion, a very smart move. And to be honest, I'm just kind of surprised that Nintendo only charged $20 when they usually charge like $100 for their Switch games. I also think that the $20 price tag was kind of a strategic move because you've never really seen a mobile game priced that high. And so the price tag makes you think twice before buying it. This probably encourages you to look further into the game and find out that it's actually an offline version that will no longer receive any updates. And so maybe it's Nintendo's way of making sure you know what you're buying before you buy it. I just think that Nintendo wanted to give the courtesy of keeping the game alive for the really hardcore fans, and in my opinion that's pretty admirable, especially for Nintendo. If every single mobile game did this, then not as many mobile games would be lost today. I understand the fact that some game companies can't keep their servers up forever, especially for a dying game, but if they just made offline versions of the game once the servers were shut down, then these problems wouldn't even exist. Anyways, let me know what you think about the games covered in today's video. A like and sub would be truly appreciated, and comment down below what type of videos you'd like to see next. See ya!